She said it was just a college reunion. No big deal. I trusted her until 3:30 a.m. rolled around, and she came home smelling like lies. One message changed everything. What followed wasn't rage. It was precision. And when I was done, the whole internet knew the truth she tried to hide. Fridays were usually the calmest part of Jake's week. A pizza, a movie, maybe a couple of beers before bed. That night was no different at first. His wife Amanda had just finished getting ready when she popped her head into the living room. "College reunion tonight," she said cheerfully, grabbing her purse. Jake didn't flinch. After 10 years of marriage, these nights had become routine. Amanda was outgoing, had plenty of friends, and Jake had never once given her a reason not to trust him, and he believed the feeling was mutual. "Have fun," he said, smiling. Amanda leaned down, kissed him on the cheek, and added playfully, "Don't wait up." Then she was gone. Jake took a swig from his beer, queued up a documentary, and settled into the couch. But as the hours passed, something began to gnaw at him. Not panic, just a nudge. Amanda hadn't posted anything to Instagram. Not a single update. She always posted, especially when she dressed up. Her stories were usually full of laughs, drinks, selfies, hashtags. But tonight, nothing. He checked his phone again. Still silent. He tried to brush it off. Maybe the bar had bad service. Maybe she was just in the moment. But that small itch in the back of his mind refused to go away. By midnight, he'd refreshed her feed so many times, it felt like a ritual. Still nothing. By 1:30 a.m., he gave up pretending not to care. That's when he broke his own rule. They had a shared mobile account, mostly for managing the family plan. He'd never touched it. But that night, he logged in. Took a moment to load. Then the text logs appeared. One name stood out. Chris. Jake didn't recognize it, but the frequency was undeniable. Dozens of messages throughout the day, every day. Even that night, he clicked into the details. The texts weren't explicit, but the tone was unmistakable. Private jokes, emotional check-ins, and the one that hit like a punch to the chest. "Can't wait to see you tonight." He stared at the screen, stunned. His hands trembled, but he kept scrolling. He needed to be wrong. He wanted to be wrong. But message after message, Chris and Amanda's connection unfolded before him. Jake wasn't looking at an old college friend. He was looking at someone Amanda had been nurturing a relationship with behind his back. Jake sat there in the dim light of the living room, phone in hand, mind racing. At 3:30 a.m., the door opened. Amanda stepped inside quietly, trying not to wake him. But he was already up, sitting at the kitchen island, motionless. She flinched when she saw him. "You're still awake?" she asked, surprised. "Couldn't sleep," Jake replied, keeping his tone flat. "How was the reunion?" "It was nice," she said quickly, walking to the sink, avoiding his gaze. "Just a few of us catching up. I didn't realize it got so late." He studied her posture, her words, her tone. She wasn't nervous. She was careful, controlled. "Who was there?" he asked as casually as he could. "Oh, just some people from college," she replied, a little too fast. "You wouldn't know them." A lie. Jake had read every message. He knew exactly who she'd been with. And it wasn't a group, it was one man, Chris. But he didn't confront her. Not yet. He nodded slowly, said nothing more. Amanda said she was going to bed. Jake stayed behind, watching her disappear down the hallway, her words echoing in his head. He should have been angry. Maybe he was. But what he felt most wasn't rage. It was clarity. In one night, everything had changed. But if Amanda thought he was just going to let this go, pretend it hadn't happened, she didn't know him as well as she thought. Jake wasn't going to raise his voice. He was going to raise the stakes. Jake didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. While Amanda snored softly down the hall, he lay in the dark, wide awake, piecing together every lie she'd told. Every girl's night, every running late excuse, every unexplained moment suddenly had a name, Chris. But he wasn't going to explode. That would let her control the narrative. call him emotional, paranoid, unstable. No, if she wanted deception, he'd give her something better. Silence and patience. The next morning, he played his role. Made coffee, cracked a few jokes, even kissed her goodbye. She smiled, seemingly relieved. She thought she'd gotten away with it. She hadn't. Over the next few days, Jake became an investigator in his own home. Amanda was careless, confident. She never changed her passcode, never hid her phone. It wasn't long before Jake unlocked her digital world. Chris wasn't a friend from college. He wasn't even from their city. He was a guy she'd met online, through a friend of a friend group chat that had shifted into private conversations. The texts started light, then grew personal. From harmless jokes to inside references and emotional support. Eventually, they slipped into suggestive territory. Not graphic, but clear enough. Jake compared dates. Every time Amanda had gone out, the timeline lined up. The messages, the lulls in communication, the days she came home smiling for no reason. Chris was the common denominator. Then came the messages that changed everything. I needed last night. I miss how you make me feel. I wish we had more time. And the most damning, a photo of them together, taken just a few nights ago. Her head rested on his shoulder. His arm wrapped around her waist. Their smiles told the story. Jake stared at the image for a long time. It wasn't just betrayal, it was intimacy. A second life. One she had never intended to reveal. But Jake wasn't interested in screaming matches. That's what people like Amanda expected. Drama, emotion, redemption arcs. He had something else in mind. He began planning, not revenge in the traditional sense, but something Amanda and Chris would never see coming. He needed more than evidence. He needed leverage. A way to make them feel exposed without ever raising his voice. Step 1. Let Amanda feel safe. He stopped checking her phone, at least while she could see. He didn't ask questions. Didn't show jealousy. He acted like a man trying to reconnect, as if he believed her reunion story and was simply giving her space. She leaned into it, became warmer, more affectionate. She believed the storm had passed. It hadn't even started. Step 2. Learn about Chris. Jake used the name, the phone number, and some social media breadcrumbs to find Chris's profiles. His accounts weren't private. He was one of those guys who posted everything: gym selfies, office updates, brunch pictures. It didn't take long to figure out where he worked, who his friends were, even the name of the company softball team he played for on weekends. Then Jake created a fake persona. A woman, neutral, attractive, connected loosely to Amanda's social circles. He crafted a believable background, complete with photos, mutual friends, and just enough digital history to pass a quick glance. Then he reached out to Chris. At first, it was just likes and replies. Casual. Subtle. After a few days, Jake technically sent a message. Friendly, light. Chris responded within hours. The two began chatting. He was flirtatious, curious. He didn't ask many questions. He trusted quickly. Within a week, Chris was sharing details. His job frustrations, his apartment address, even his complaints about Amanda being stuck in her situation. Jake screenshotted everything. Step 3. Document everything. While Amanda texted in the kitchen or took calls in the car, Jake installed discrete cameras in the home. Nothing invasive, just angles that captured enough. Her body language during phone calls. Her facial expressions when she messaged him. Jake collected clips, synced timelines, matched words with behavior. He wasn't building a case for divorce. He was building a story, a true one, but he still wasn't ready to reveal it. Not yet. He needed to wait for the perfect moment. A day when Amanda would lie to his face, again without hesitation. When Chris would believe he had the upper hand. That moment was coming. Jake just had to be patient. And patience, he was learning, was far more powerful than anger. It was a Thursday afternoon when Amanda told Jake she had plans to meet a friend for coffee. She said it casually, like she'd done 100 times before. He nodded, as if he didn't already know she was heading straight to Chris's apartment. He watched her drive away. Then he set the final part of his plan into motion. The evidence he had collected over the past month was airtight. The video clips, the screenshots, the text logs, everything told a clear story. Not one shaped by anger or speculation, but by her own words and actions. Jake didn't want revenge through confrontation. He wanted exposure, truth as a weapon. And the audience he had in mind was far larger than Amanda expected. He spent the next few hours editing the footage. Not just piecing it together, but structuring it like a documentary. It opened with Amanda's voice from a recorded phone call, laughing as she told Chris, "He has no idea." It cut to time-stamped clips of her texting while sitting in their living room, then matched that moment with the messages Chris had sent. Jake narrated none of it. He didn't need to. Amanda's own behavior carried the entire story. The final scene was the photo, Chris with his arm around her, both smiling like a couple with nothing to hide. The caption over it read, "She told her husband she was at a reunion." Jake uploaded the video anonymously to a popular social platform known for exposing cheaters. He tagged it as a social experiment and let the internet do the rest. It didn't take long. By the time Amanda returned that evening, the video had been shared over 200,000 times. Comments poured in. The post made its way to local Reddit threads, Twitter, even Facebook groups for the Denver community. When she walked through the door, she looked like someone coming home from a relaxing afternoon. Jake greeted her with a calm nod. Her phone buzzed. Once, then again, then a flood of notifications. She frowned, opened the lock screen, and froze. He watched from the kitchen as her face shifted. She scrolled rapidly, disbelief turning into panic. Her mouth opened slightly. Her hands started shaking. "What is this?" she whispered. Jake didn't answer. She turned to him, pale. "Did you do this?" He stared at her for a long second, then said, "You said you were meeting a friend for coffee. Was it iced or hot?" That was the only thing he said. Amanda's breathing grew shallow. She looked back at the phone, where strangers were commenting on her lies, dissecting every clip, speculating about her life. Her social media had exploded. Friends and coworkers were tagging her, some in shock, others with venom. She dropped into a chair, silent. Jake didn't raise his voice. He didn't call her names. He simply walked past her, grabbed a small duffel bag he had already packed, and stepped outside. Not to leave forever yet, but to let the damage settle without interference. Chris didn't get off easy either. Jake had included just enough identifiers in the video to make it clear who the other man was. Once Chris's name began circulating in the comments, people started connecting the dots. His work profile was found. His company was tagged. Messages were sent. By the next morning, Chris had deleted most of his accounts. His company issued a vague statement about privacy violations and internal reviews. Amanda tried to reach Jake several times over the weekend. Calls, texts, voicemails. Some apologetic, some angry, some desperate. He didn't answer. On Monday, she showed up at his office unannounced. Security turned her away. Jake knew she wanted control back. To spin the narrative. To patch things over. Shift blame. Claim it was just emotional. Or that nothing really happened. But the truth was already out. She hadn't just cheated. She had lied to a man who trusted her, built a second relationship behind his back, and laughed about it while doing so. Jake didn't need to destroy her. She had done that herself. He had simply lifted the curtain. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. Jake stayed at a hotel on the edge of town. Not to hide, but to observe the aftermath from a distance. He didn't speak to Amanda, didn't return her messages. He didn't need to. The video had already done the talking for him. At first, Amanda tried damage control. She posted a statement on her social media, vague and defensive. She called it a misunderstanding, claimed the video was edited out of context, and that she and Jake were working through private matters. That post backfired. Within minutes, people replied with screenshots, timestamps, side-by-side comparisons. Strangers tore through her excuses with surgical precision. Her attempt to deflect only confirmed what the video had already proven. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deception, documented with care. Her friends began to disappear. People she used to meet for brunch or gym classes stopped replying. A few reached out to Jake, apologizing for not seeing it sooner. Others sent messages simply saying, "You didn't deserve this." Amanda's workplace wasn't far behind. Though they couldn't publicly acknowledge the video, the shift was obvious. Her responsibilities were reduced. Meetings were reassigned. Co-workers who once chatted at her desk now kept their distance. Her reputation, once solid, had been gutted by digital whispers and screenshots shared in office group chats. And Chris? Chris vanished. After the video went viral, his accounts disappeared one by one. His name became associated with betrayal in local gossip. Jake had never contacted Chris directly. He didn't need to. The internet did the work. Posts connected Chris to Amanda. Mutual acquaintances stopped speaking to him. A few even messaged Jake, forwarding apologies and bits of background that confirmed what he already knew. Chris had never cared who got hurt. Jake didn't feel triumphant. He didn't feel anything, really, just clarity. He spent his nights at the hotel working, going for runs, and reviewing his next steps. He'd already spoken to a lawyer. The divorce paperwork was nearly ready. Clean, straightforward. No kids, no entangled businesses, no long court battles. He'd make a quiet exit, the same way he'd made the first cut, without shouting. On the 5th day, Amanda showed up at the hotel. Jake saw her through the security camera before she knocked. She stood at the door for a while before finally raising her hand. When he opened it, she looked worn out. Not from stress, but from being unprepared for real consequences. "I just want to talk," she said quietly. Jake let her in but said nothing. She sat on the edge of the armchair and started to cry. Not performatively, not for attention, but because, for the first time, she realized what she'd lost. "I messed up," she admitted. "I don't have any excuses. I didn't mean to destroy everything." Jake listened. That's all. No nods, no interruptions. "I don't even talk to Chris anymore. I don't know what I was doing. I thought it was harmless at first, just talking, and then it got complicated." He finally spoke. Complicated as messaging someone about how much you need last night, while your husband is waiting at home thinking you're catching up with old friends? Amanda went silent. "I didn't just lose a partner," Jake continued. "I lost the version of you I believed in, the version who would have told me if something was wrong." "I still love you," she said, voice breaking. Jake stood up, walked to the small desk, pulled out a manila envelope. "These are the divorce papers. I'm not going to fight you. I just want it over." She didn't reach for the envelope. She just stared at it. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," he added. "But I can't build a life on a foundation that cracked while I wasn't looking." Amanda nodded. Slowly, she understood. Not because Jake explained it well, but because, for the first time, he wasn't angry. He was finished. She left without another word. Later that night, Jake received a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "You did what most men wouldn't have the guts to do. Respect." It was unsigned. Probably one of the thousands who'd seen the video. Maybe someone who'd been through something similar. Jake read it once, then deleted it. He didn't need approval. He just needed closure. And now he was almost there. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. No court battles, no drawn-out negotiations. Jake had made it easy on paper. He asked for nothing beyond a clean break. The assets were split evenly. He kept the house, she took the car. Amanda didn't fight it. By then, she understood what resistance would cost her. Jake returned to his normal routine, but nothing felt familiar anymore. The home they once shared had become a quiet space, stripped of false comfort. Still, it was his now. No lies lived there. No unanswered questions. Amanda moved in with a cousin in the suburbs, away from the noise. Her social presence faded. Not out of shame, at least not entirely, but because people had stopped listening. The world moved on. But her reputation, even among friends, never fully recovered. Chris was never seen again in Jake's circles. Word was he transferred to a different state, deleted all personal accounts, and started fresh somewhere else. Jake didn't care. He hadn't ruined Chris's life. Chris had done that himself by stepping into someone else's and assuming there'd be no consequences. Jake didn't follow their stories. He didn't need to. He'd done what he came to do, expose the truth and walk away with dignity. He didn't want revenge. He wanted accountability. And he got it. But the real change wasn't in Amanda or Chris. It was in Jake. He stopped being the man who gave people the benefit of the doubt simply because they smiled. He started asking more questions, paying closer attention not just to others but to himself, to the moments he overlooked, the silences he had once excused. What surprised him most, though, was how many people reached out after the video. Some were strangers. Others were friends he hadn't heard from in years. A few shared similar stories. Cheating, betrayal, the quiet unraveling of trust. Most had suffered in silence. Jake hadn't realized how common it was until his story made others feel less alone. He didn't become an activist or start a podcast. He didn't write a book. He just lived better, smarter, more aware. He learned to trust again, but not blindly. Months passed. Then one morning, while running errands, he ran into a former coworker, Lindsay. They chatted briefly, caught up on work, mutual friends, the kind of small talk that didn't mean much on the surface. Except something was different. Jake wasn't guarded, but he wasn't naive either. He asked questions. He listened. He watched how she carried herself. And when she smiled, it didn't feel rehearsed. They started getting coffee once a week. No expectations. Just conversation. Eventually, one morning, she asked him, "Do you ever think about dating again?" Jake didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I think about honesty. And if that leads to something else, I won't run from it." That was enough for now. His story didn't end in disaster or bitterness. It ended in clarity. He didn't break the law. He didn't scream, beg, or threaten. He let the facts speak, gave the guilty their own words as evidence, and let public opinion do the rest. He protected himself, his dignity, and his peace, without stooping to cruelty. The internet forgot about Amanda eventually, but Jake never forgot what she taught him. That love without truth is nothing more than performance. And trust without action is just hope in disguise.